Hello. Hello.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can share
Sorry,
the screen and
sorry for
start.
that.
Yeah.
I believe my system required me to rejoin the meeting. Okay. I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, please.
Uh, please let me know. 1 second.
Yes, it is coming up. Yeah. You can just put it in the slideshow and then get it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Shekhar, for this opportunity to talk and, in fact, attend the session. It has been a great learning so far, especially me coming from a practice side of it. Okay, the past 3 sessions by Mr. Alex, Dr. Hassan, and Samir have been very insightful. Okay, so coming to a brief about myself, Sheikh Mohammed Salman, having 14 years of experience into implementing enterprise performance management solutions, mostly SAP, as some experience into IBM and as well as Oracle Hyperion suites. Okay, so I have had the pleasure of working with across maybe Asia, Middle East, and African companies. Okay, and then I would just like to put, since I come from more systems background. Okay, so what I would like to share about today will be like how we have been talking about that strategy should be aligned to the budget. Okay, at the same time it should not be too operational. Okay, so how do we achieve this in real time? Okay, as Mr. Alex as well as Dr. Sam mentioned, okay, uh, aligning the strategic plans to the budgets, and aligning the strategic plans to the operational managers, making sure that operational managers have the ownership of your plan and initiatives is really critical. Otherwise, the strategic plan ends up being in the risk of being a poster. That's it, which everybody knows, looks at it, hopes, wishes that they get there, and nothing happens. Okay, so budget is something very powerful tool. Okay, so today's agenda, I would be talking briefly about budget, and then how do we actually prepare the budget aligned to the strategy, and then how do we establish a review mechanism for the budget, and then what is it, the systems, because as Samir rightly mentioned towards the end of his presentation, the system is a really critical factor here. Okay, so without efficient systems, okay, so operational managers are always operations, okay, supply chain, purchase, production, okay, finance is relatively comfortable with presentations, okay, or sharing reports, but the other operational managers are really busy, and the information flows very late, and by the time it reaches the office of strategy, it is not really actionable. Okay, so just to highlight about the budget process, how it would look like, the in as part of this is the design methodology that we have put into designing the budgeting process within the Flow Strategy platform. Okay, the strategic planning. So the strategic planning, the strategy is broken down into the chunks. Okay, the annual chunks, and then this is something that is given as an input to prepare the budget. Okay, and then from the budget, okay, and then there has to be a continuous feedback that the Office of Strategy receives, whether these particular objectives are being fulfilled, or there is some cross purpose allocation of resources being happening. Okay, so now when we the as it is, as Mr. Sheikh Abdul Khader, when he was showing the screen, the OPEX and CAPEX are the two things which finance understands. Stratex is something that is not actually understood by finance. When we talk about the other operational managers, they don't even care about something called a stratex. All they know is whether this is something that is within their annual budget or this is something that requires some financing, all these things. Okay, so the idea behind putting these three activities separately is, okay, if we talk about the public sector enterprises, especially my experience in South Africa, okay, they have a very robust mechanism of linking the strategy to the budget. So South African government mandates that every municipality or every organization that works under the South African government reports to National Treasury and make sure every single rand of expense that happens is aligned to one or the other strategic objectives. Okay, so this is one school of thought I have seen over my career, and then there is second method which most United Nations organizations adopt, where they are expected to present two separate things. One is how they organize, how that particular organization, how effectively is using its funds. The second one is what is their how are they able to, for
It's
example,
5:30.
how are they able to meet their strategic goals? For example, organizations like UNICEF, so they have certain metrics that they need to share, like how many children they are educating, how much food they are able to get it by region, okay, what is the mortality rate, all these things. So now here, what United Nations organizations usually do is they submit two separate reports. One, the financial; the second, the RBM, which is a framework used by UN for their strategy execution. Now, both these, in my opinion, in both these methods are flawed. Like where you put every expense that you have aligned to the strategy, and then where you have the strategy and expenses completely decoupled. Both these are wrong. What happens in the first scenario where you have every expense aligned? Okay, so now the strategy team starts receiving every single input from the budget, which is not really required. Okay, you may have some 10, 15, 20 initiatives of that year. All you are concerned about is how these 10, 20 initiatives are being run. Okay, rest, the office of budget is more than capable of handling the other miscellaneous expenses or the other operational expenses. Now that is the idea behind presenting the stratex in a separate box. So we at Fru Strategy, when in our budget model roadmap, what we have is to identify the OPEX and CAPEX items, okay, which are relevant for strategy. Okay, so that whenever there is a budget cut or whenever there is whenever there is a strategy review, the office of strategy don't really need to chase budget or operational managers to actually ask them how it is going on. So the operational managers, whenever they prepare a budget or whenever they have a budget review meeting, they can update the performance against these particular metrics, and then it is communicated without any latency. Okay, so theoretically this is very simple. Okay, so like we just have one model wherein the operational managers can move the recommendations or comments back to the strategy office of strategy, office of budget. But in a practical perspective, okay, there are a lot of challenges around it. Okay, so that is what we'll try to walk through, like how an ideal case scenario where you have an aligned strategy, how we do the aligned strategy and budget process. Okay, and then how we empower the operational managers to take ownership of their initiatives, and then how we record and report. Okay, so the first step in the budget preparation always have to be the strategic plan has to be converted into actionable points, actionable initiatives which have to be shared with the office of budget along with the assumptions based on which these particular initiatives or plans have been arrived at to the office of budget, so that these forms the some organizations call it blue book, some organizations call it budget advisory note. Okay, so these so as part of the budget instructions, when the office of budget sends the instructions to department to start preparing their departmental budgets, along with the along with the operational instructions which budget department shares, it also has to share the initiatives or the goals and the corresponding targets to the departments. Okay, so in this way, okay, when the departments come back and submit the budgets, they submit with strategy in mind, their particular goal in mind. Okay, so okay, and then so once we start linking each of the budget item to a strategic initiative which is relevant. Okay, some items may not be fully relevant to the initiative, for example the depreciation expenditure or any other office rent. So these things don't office of strategy don't really need to know or understand these expenses. This is something that is the discretionary expense of the department, and that uh, office of budget and finance department are more than capable of handling it. Okay, so the first step as strategy practitioners would be to establish to distinguish the roles of what office of strategy has to do, what the office of budget has to do, and then what is the expectations from operational managers. Now I have put it this is an illustrative example wherein the office of strategy initially prepares the short-term goals and then priorities. Okay, and then the assumptions, and these are shared with the office of budget, which prepares the operational budget priorities, and then creates a performance evaluation criteria based on both operational as well as strategic goals. And then these particular budget priorities have to be aligned to the operations by the operational managers. Okay, so here and then the office of budget should take a responsibility of ensuring there is a feedback mechanism both to as well as from both sides. Okay, and then so once the reason why we have to establish this particular mechanism is because as the year progresses, there's a lot of changes that happen in the operation side. Okay, there is suddenly the operational managers start asking for ad hoc requests. Okay, and sometimes okay, maybe your assumptions based on which you would have arrived at a criteria that uh, are, for example, if we take grow revenue 20% in the next 3 years, maybe this year your budget strategy office of strategy has come up with like 5%. Okay, so whether this is 5% or something, this will go beyond 5% if we do a little bit of more investment. This is something the feedback has to be open. Okay, so so along with the responsibility matrix, we also have to have a performance model wherein the performance measures, okay, is not just based on a budget, but as because and it should be based on both strategic plan as well as budget. Okay, and it should the system, okay, the system implemented should have both financial as well as non-financial. One key point here I would like to highlight. Okay, so usually the budgeting systems, okay, at the beginning of so far I have been part of over 16 implementations at some of the biggest names. When we start implementing a solution, it starts up as a performance management solution and all, and then as we go on implementing and then towards the end of the project, the entire it stops being an enterprise performance management solution. It starts being only a budgeting solution. So the performance management is completely taken out, and as soon as it becomes an only performance management solution, it is a finance. It is something that is owned and operated by finance. So the team is not really invested in the budget. The operational managers are not really interested. All they are interested is meeting their budgetary targets for that year, and they're so that uh, okay. Okay, so one process which I have used in some of our implementation is plan, report, and assess and mitigate method. The first one, plan, wherein this is the stage wherein all the goals are translated into all the strategic objectives are translated into goals. Okay, and then the assumptions are documented. This is a really critical thing, the strategic assumptions. Okay, and then uh, activities, then the activities which are actually relevant for the strategy part, they have to be identified so that budget team can religiously monitor those specific activities, and then even the operational managers are aware of what is being monitored. Okay, and what is something so that they also feel that they contribute to a bigger cause than just meeting their budget targets. Okay, and then based on that the budgets are prepared. Okay, and then when we talk about reporting, so obviously there is an actual versus budget report. So in many cases, there is actual versus best case scenario, worst scenario, and then average scenario. So it depends. This is again all depending upon the organization and how the budget team wants to prepare their budget. Okay, and then along with the budget reporting, okay, which could be a quarterly, a half yearly, or a monthly exercise. Okay, the performance of those particular identified strategic initiatives also can be, maybe a particular measure cannot be measured in a month or a quarter. Maybe it takes time of 6 months to 1 year. Okay, but there could be some sort of a comments or update, something that team keeps on updating. Okay, and then the ad hoc budget requests that come in. Okay, not all relevant to the strategic initiatives. Sometimes okay, during course of year, sales manager or a supply chain manager could identify a potential scenario where they could increase the revenue or reduce the cost. Okay, which helps a strategic initiative, but which may not be really detrimental to the operational budget. So this particular channel has to be open so that so that the entire as mentioned in the earlier sessions, like there has to be a bird's eye view. Okay, we cannot prioritize if there is a really big opportunity that is available in the horizon. Operational budgets cannot take priority, and this can only happen when the managers are empowered enough to speak that this strategic objective can be achieved. Okay, and then the third phase obviously is assessments. The assessment of the overall performance, both operational as well as strategic. Okay, and then as Samir mentioned, the validation of assumptions, both operational assumptions as well as strategic assumptions, they have to be validated periodically. Okay, so initially the validation of entering the comments, giving their inputs seems boring, and anyone who has worked with CRM solutions will agree that when you start using a CRM solution in the first 1 year, it is a really boring exercise. Okay, so every single I have been part of one transformation where every single employee was complaining that they have apart from the sales activity that they are already uh, very busy with, they also have to enter the data every day religiously. But 1 year and 2 years down the line, that particular CRM, that comments of conversations which the users were entering turned into a gold mine, wherein now this particular CRM was so rich, okay, with information that all so that is how it stops being a people centric to the system centric. So that any new salesperson comes in, just logs in, gives the account number, and he sees the entire conversation history of that customer. So that is how these assumptions and inputs that we put forward into the system. For example, you have a strategy of a strategic plan for 5 years. 2 years, oh, we do this activity, and then the third year you really start seeing the results and where it is going and what you could do uh, to actually achieve the performance. Okay, so this is what I have explained in these slides, like how we report. Okay, and then I will take a little bit deep dive into the systems perspective. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the budget process have to be simplified as well as unified, wherein usually, as I mentioned, okay, the budget process, the enterprise performance management solution eventually becomes a budgeting solution, which is a baby of finance. Okay, and only the office of budget and under the finance department actually owns that solution. No other operational team is actually interested or involved in the design of the solution. All they want is at the end of the year, whenever they ask to enter the data, they just enter and come out of that solution. This has to change. Okay, as Alex was mentioning, this process is a very painful process, and this process is actually a very slow process, but this will have having a very good budgeting solution designed with the inputs from the operational managers of other departments, and understanding their KPIs will help organization in a long run in a very it will simplify a lot of reporting. Okay, so if the budget is not actually aligned, okay, if the budget is actually, if the scenario where it is aligned will help a lot of actual reporting that is happening. Okay, so that is the reason we see I have, over the course of my career, I have seen a lot of reports are requested by the production team, by purchase team, that we have been asked for this particular report from finance, from office of strategy, please prepare this budget. So these reporting can be done if the budget solution was designed with the production or whatever operational teams in mind. Okay, the systems, okay, one biggest flaw of the traditional EPM solutions like SAP BPC or Oracle Hyperion is where they allow you to capture one comment, okay, against a specific data. For example, this is a budget for this year, you can capture a comment against it, but and then the problem here is when you open a report, we can review the comment, but we cannot actually report on these comments, like what all happened, what is the history of this particular initiative. That is something really tricky, and I have to accept, like with the latest solution from SAP Analytics Cloud, okay, SAP has addressed this particular problem, which is like a fantastic tool to use, and unfortunately very few companies are even interested. Okay, when they start the budgeting process, usually what happens, the first iteration of budgeting process, all these rules are followed, wherein you prepare a strategic goal, and then you share it, you share the targets, and then okay, with the departments, and departments actually report religiously, and then the timeline starts kicking in. Budget teams wants you to adjust the numbers within 2 days, 3 days, and then these comments, and then these remarks, which will be really critical in evaluating down the line, take a backseat. So that is the reason a robust solution which can easily help operational managers as per their requirement, okay, uh, to capture the budget as well as strategic information, will be a really helpful tool in in the strategic execution plan. Okay, so obviously these are some of the criteria, like it should have a very deep integration to both master data as well as transaction data. It can the budgeting system, especially when it is linked to strategy, can have no latency. Okay, so and then the system should allow the link between a budgeting item and a strategic item. Okay, and then system both the and then the reporting capabilities, as already mentioned, there should be a lot of reporting capability, especially ad hoc reporting, where and the most important thing, these reporting should preferably be done within the same database. I know I'm going a little bit technical here, but there's a very big challenge, okay, with having two specific solutions, one for reporting and one for budgeting, or at least they should have a very deep integration among themselves. The reason is, once we don't have the reports, both operational as well as strategic reports coming from the same data set, there's a very high chance that these two will not agree with each other. And then as Alex was mentioning earlier, like, there's a small issue and then you start fighting with each other, and then the feedback comes in after a year when the complete opportunity has been lost. Okay, so these keeping this in mind, just I would like to quickly walk through the strategic. Okay, I would like to quickly walk through the solution we have in the fruit strategy. It is an evolving solution, but sorry. Okay, so so this is how a budget item is created in the fruit strategy budgeting solution, where every budget item, okay, has to have a specific initiative or a measure aligned to it. Okay, so and then the data entry screens, okay, and then obviously the dashboards. Okay, unfortunately, I'm running out of time, so I cannot actually walk you through the system, but yeah, I think we'll be sharing a video of the working system shortly, and maybe we'll have one more session. Maybe Mr. Sheikh Abdul Qadir can advise on this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Salman. Very interesting. Office of Budget is something which is new for me. Okay, so I remember when we did, I was in charge of the budgeting process in 2008, 2009. I was grilled by our CEO for 6 hours for budget approval. So I am really worried about the budgeting process at that point of time. I was vice president for planning and performance. Okay, so it was really a horrible scenario. Yeah. So
No.
any questions, gentlemen, for Salman? He is available for a couple of minutes to take up any questions. Otherwise, we'll just go to the new session. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Salman. Thank you for your wonderful presentation of and insights, especially in the government sector, how it happened. Okay, so thank you.